सीता राम राम राम।
हरे राम 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 सीता राम राम राम।
सीता राम राम राम
सीता राम राम राम।
सीता राम राम राम
सीता राम राम राम।
सीता राम राम राम
सीता राम राम राम।
सीता राम राम राम।
सीता राम राम राम।
सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। बोलो भाई सब संतन की
जय।
श्री राम जय जय राम। लाउडली श्री राम जय जय राम।
श्री राम जय जय राम।
श्री राम जय जय राम।
राम जय जय राम।
श्री 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 राम जय जय राम।
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 प्रिय सियावर रामचंद्र की पवन सुत हनुमान की बोलो भाई सब संतन की सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
Hariam everyone, can you all see me and hear me clearly? Awesome. Awesome to see many of you join. Missed you guys. Hope you've been having a good summer break. In Texas, it's the time to make papad. You put them out to dry, turn around, make yourself a cup of chai and go back, it would be dry. If you leave it any further, they'll become like a microwaved papad. It's that hot. But I kind of like it that way. Could not have survived the snow. It's good to see in photos. Okay. Today we will move from the primary Vedantic concept into the aspect of understanding Maya. Though the topic is, or the chapter is named as Maya, the idea essentially is, how does one see this world as a sadhaka, as a siddha purusha, and how does one come to understand it? How does Vedanta look at it? That is the purpose. So Maya becomes a very integral part of our discussion and understanding. So we will dive deep into it. Let's start with our invocation and then start the chapter. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. In the Vedantic concept, one of the key propositions that it stands by is each one of us are essentially divine. We have never lost the status of divinity. So that is one difference with respect to the Abrahamic understanding. Their understanding is each one of us is a sinner, and for our sins somebody has given up their life, and therefore you invoke, and all the sins that which we may have done, which we may do, which we are doing, all of them with your confession is wiped out clean. Thereby, when you enter into the other world, you have eternity. Pretty much the same thing in the Islamic belief. But in Vedanta, we say that we are essentially divine by nature, the way we are born. There is no Chuti চ্যুতি means falling down from that particular status. This is one key concept, one of the key concepts. When we say that we do not lose that, meaning we are essentially that divine, we may not recognize it right now for whatever reasons. We have seen what the reasons are. We may not be recognizing it right now. It is just like how many of you have glasses on your nose. Has it ever happened that you have searched for them while they are on your face? Quite a humbling experience when people laugh at you and say, it has always been on your nose. But how did I not recognize it? In fact, I see clearly because of it. And yet I end up making a mistake to wrongly assume that I am not seeing properly and I need glasses. Similarly, a very simple example to be given. So why does this happen? So to explain this and various other aspects, layers of aspects, Vedanta introduces this term called Maya. Today we will see this word Maya in different shades. When we use very loosely in the Indian context, Maya, we say that which is illusory in nature. There can be a definition of that kind, but in true terms of Vedantic understanding, we say Maya is Ishvara's Shakti, Ishvariya Shakti. How is this Ishvariya Shakti? This Ishvariya Shakti is called the inseparable aspect of that Ishvara. Now, in order to understand this, let us look at our individual level. Each one of us has different kinds of talent, potentiality, skill sets, and we are definitely not limited by one skill set or one talent. If we try listing out all the skill sets that we have, we would be amazed, sometimes even surprised. Oh my God, I do have this skill set. I may not be using it properly or regularly, but I am endowed with all these skill sets. Whenever I have to express myself, I express through these skill sets. I have the ability to speak. So whenever I have to express, I express through these. Can I withdraw myself from these expressions, these skill sets, talents, potential? Can I withdraw them? If I withdraw them, do I cease to exist? Thankfully, if I keep quiet, I don't cease to exist. I can exist independent of my speech. My existence doesn't become null and void. All these talents and these can be called as Shakti, right? मेरे बोलने की शक्ति, सुनने की शक्ति, पकाने की शक्ति. मैं खाने वाले पकाने की बात कर रहा हूं, दिमाग के पकाने की बात नहीं कर रहा. गार्डनिंग की शक्ति, गाने की शक्ति, पेंटिंग की शक्ति, ये सब शक्तियां हैं. All these can be called as Shakti. Whenever I have to express, I express through these Shaktis, but I am independent of these Shaktis. Meaning when I stop it, I do not cease to exist. Is this point very clear? If it is not clear, please raise your hands. I would go over this topic again. Is this much clear? Very good. Ishvara also expresses through his Shakti. And how is the relationship between this Ishvara and this Shakti? They're inseparable. Whenever identified with a certain Shakti, this Ishvara expresses, he takes a different format. For example, when he identifies, this Ishvara identifies with the creation aspect of it, he becomes the creator. And as a creator, what is his Shakti? What does he require? In today's layman's terms, I would say, he requires vast amount of data, knowledge. Therefore, his Shakti Swarupini is Sharada Devi or Saraswati Devi, who is the very embodiment of knowledge. In order to sustain, maintain, what does one require? You require lots of resources. Not just one kind. Many of us say, Lakshmi Devi, paisa chahiye, there is wealth. Wealth is one of the resources. Therefore, we say we have Ashta Mahalakshmi, 8 different kinds of Lakshmi. Dhana Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi, Saubhagya Lakshmi, typically South Indian names. But the patent right is with her. All these are his Shaktis to maintain. Now, if you ever have moved from an apartment into a house of your own, then you quickly realize, oh my goodness, there's so many kinds of resources that are required to maintain a house. You require a plumber, you require an electrician, you require one after the other. There are like 20-30 people that are required to maintain. And you need to know those if you're ready to pay for their bill. Most of us, because the bill goes directly to the dil, they start doing, what do you call it? DIY. Do it yourself. So after 4 or 5 years of living in your own house, you become an expert plumber, expert carpenter, expert electrician, expert at everything. Because sustaining and maintaining is not easy. So you require all these resources. Bhagavan Shiva, his job description is destruction, but we in Hinduism look at destruction completely differently. We call it as recycling. So when he takes that form, what is his Shakti? Usually his Shakti is a very benign form. She is called Annapurna Devi. She feeds everybody. But then when she takes the raw Prachanda form, then she becomes Bhadrakali. The BK Avatara comes out. When that Bhadrakali Avatara comes out, I mean, even though it is complete morphing and destruction, even in that, what is her name? Bhadrakali. The one who expresses herself as the format of time and changes everything, but changing it to bring everything back to auspiciousness, therefore Bhadra. It is not like a kid with a hammer going around, a toddler with a hammer and breaks everything up. No, that is not the kind of destruction we are talking about. Guruji, we just celebrated his birthday on the 30th. So remembering fondly, I thought, this particular joke that he loves sharing should be mentioned here. So there was this kid, the father was almost like it was a last game. Any toy that he would buy, the kid by the evening, father comes back, it is all broken and he'll give him the broken pieces. So father was like, I should get him one thing that he cannot break it. So he talks to the shop manager and he gives him this, and the father also tests the nut on that piece and it doesn't break. So the father brings it home, gives it. Next day goes to the office, comes back. The father asks, how was the toy? The kid says, Dad, it is the awesomest toy that you have ever brought. It is intact. It is so good that I broke everything else in the house with this. That is called pure sheer destruction without logic or reason. Bhadrakali's expression is not that way. When Bhagwan Shiva takes the Prachanda avatara of destroying everything, it is not destruction per se to be a meaningless destruction. It is remorphing. That's why the definition that Gurudev gives for death is constructive destruction is called death. That this format that it is in is changed to something newer. That the seed becomes a sapling, sapling becomes a tree, tree then gives out flowers, flowers die to give out a fruit, fruit fructifies, gives out more seeds. So each layer, it kind of destroys in producing something uniquely beautiful for the continuation. Now through these Shaktis, when they express, they are inseparable, but Ishvara is independent of his Shakti. He can withdraw his Shakti and still exist. Therefore, as Hindus, when we talk in defining Bhagwan, we end up defining it as a supreme energy. Bhagwan is not supreme energy. Bhagwan is beholder of that supreme energy. वह शक्ति नहीं शक्तिमान है. The one who beholds that energy and has the intelligence to use it in the proper direction. Does it make it? Is it easy to understand? Now, in order to create this Shakti of the Ishvara, expresses in three formats. We call it as this Ishwariya Maya Shakti can also be defined as Trigunatmika. There are various definitions of Maya. We'll just stick to one at a time. Trigunatmika. Three gunas are there. Satvik, Rajasic, Tamasic. From the Tamasic aspect, the 5 elements are grossified and this tangible creation is seen. The same Maya Shakti at the totality level, at the Ishvara level, is his Shakti, Maya, but at an individual level it becomes Avidya. At the totality level it is called Maya Shakti. At the individual level, it is called Avidya. Avidya means ignorance of one's own true nature. Many people reading the self-unfoldment of initial texts of Vedanta, they would define it as ignorance. No, it is not just any ignorance. It is ignorance of our true nature, the ignorance of the self. Now what happens at this microcosmic, at a macrocosmic level? The entire creation of plurality happens through these sattvic, rajasic and tamasic aspect. At the individuality level, as avidya, it expresses in two formats. Are you all there with me step by step? This avidya expresses in two formats. One is called avarana. The second is called vikshepa. Gurudev uses the words. We come across that in the second page itself. Non-apprehension, misapprehension. Apprehension is to hold, to understand. Avarana and vikshepa shakti, they come into play. The best example that can be taken is, I'm entering into the house. It is about the sunset time. I parked my vehicle. As I am entering close by, the nearby house has a shadow, so it is a little dark. There was a gentle breeze that was flowing. The corner of your eye, those evergreens, you saw something move. You paid attention. You kind of peeked in that direction. Holy cow, there is a snake. As soon as you see the snake, you perceive the snake. Has it ever happened that you have seen a snake in an unusual place? You want to scream, snake, but it doesn't come out. You're still in that shock. And once you take a breather and then you say, snake, your parents or somebody, they immediately, armed with a stick and a flashlight, they step in and throw the flashlight. You show the generic direction, throw the flashlight, and with the stick, they find that snake. Just to pull a fast one on you, they even throw that one at your direction. You are already freaked out. You just jump in the air. Usually long jump is forward. This long jump will be backwards. And you will be hitting a world record. Just the fear factor will kick you, only to realize that everybody is laughing because that was not a snake. That was only a rope. Now what happened here? Because of that darkness, there was avarana. The rope was covered. Avarana means to cover. And because of that being covered in that darkness, you might have had an earlier experience of snake, visually seeing it or whatever. And this kind of resembled to that. and your mind now projects. In that projection, it brings forth the effects of that projection, which is fear, anxiety, palpitations, precipitations, all kinds of effects. Now, if this concept is understood, this entire creation is nothing but the expression of that divine Ishvara alone. Therefore, for a Hindu, holy cow is really a holy cow. A tree is carrying its sanctity. We worship the trees, we worship the mountains, we worship the stones, we worship the rivers, we worship the sky. What is it that we don't worship? So recently in some discussions, Swamiji, how about dogs? Have you seen Dattatreya Bhagavan? Have you? So you can Google it. Dattatreya Bhagavan usually is seen depicted as with a cow and 4 dogs. That is worship worthy. Have you seen Kala Bhairava? Kala Bhairava also comes with a dog as a Vahana. So every aspect of creation is worship worthy. That is the Hindu way of outlook. It is not because we are scared of the nature, therefore out of fear we are trying to, but it is from the understanding that every single expression of this creation is nothing but that supreme alone in this expression. That is the substratum. Therefore, I reconnect it to one more aspect. Many of us know Vishnu Sahasranama. What is the first word in Vishnu Sahasranama? It talks about the 1000 names of Vishnu, but it doesn't start with Vishnu. Vishnu happens to be the second name. What is the first name of Bhagavan Vishnu in Vishnu Sahasranama? Vishwam. And just because we are not able to see this Vishwa, this creation, as the divine, we are asked to invoke it in a particular form. From that focal point, expand to the entire universe to see the universe as that Bhagavan. Instead of seeing Bhagavan, this world, instead of seeing it as that Ishvara, because of our avidya, there is a avarana. What do I start seeing? There is a vikshepa. In that vikshepa, what do I create? I divide the entire world into 2 parts. That which is mine and that which is yet to be mine. Isn't it? Yes, you can say not mine, therefore I put the effort to make it mine. See, the forefathers, when they came into this country, they said the natives who were already there prior to them, they said this land belongs to us, we have the paperwork. Do you have a paperwork to prove that that is how the European mindset worked? The poor innocent natives, their mindset even today is that they would use a particular environment for the natural resources, take its permission, invoke the blessings, just like the other Indian, the dotted ones, the same kind of principle. They would invoke the blessings, use the natural resources, and leave that natural resource to replenish itself, so that they would go settle somewhere else and they would rotate. For they would not accept the land or anything as their asset to hold on to. Now the European mindset came in. They said, we have the paperwork. And how did they create this paperwork? They would decide that in this particular locality we have to have a small township developed. So whoever is there on that declared day, they would have stakes with a flag on it. How much ever land that you can go which is unstaked, but now you can stake it, it becomes yours. So mine and not yet mine. Isn't that the whole Bhagavad Gita's beginning? Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samavetayu mamakaha pandavaschaiva, my children and Pandu's children. They are fighting. What happened next? In fact, in Tulsi Ramayana, Ramcharitmanas, Lakshmanji asks, this happens in, I would guess, either in Chitrakoot or in Panchavati, where Bhagavan was very pleasantly disposed. So Lakshmana comes and asks, Bhagavan, I have had few questions to contemplate upon. I am not finding clear answers to it. Can you help me find the answers? So Bhagavan says, Pruchha, ask. So to that, Lakshmanji asks, can you define what Maya is? Then Bhagavan defines it in the most beautiful, articulate, simple words. Maya at the individual level expressing is in the very idea of main aur more torate Maya. Wherever the concept of I, my, you, yours, this differential appears, that in itself is the expression of Maya. So layered with this, we do not see that Paramatma in and through everything. Intrinsically, we are told that if there is a book and by mistake your foot falls on it, please bend down and do namaskar to it. Right? There is that Vidya Devi in it. Oh, when I go to the universities, colleges, and these children have the bags with the books being used as foot support. Like they place their two legs on it. इतना disturb और distract हो जाता हूँ ना मैं. So I request them that in my belief, this aspect is there. Whether you believe it or not, for my peace of mind, can you please take your feet off the books? It is ingrained that even if it is a paper, a useless paper, but if I step on it, I immediately do namaskar to it. If my foot ever touches somebody else, are we not taught namaste karo? Why? It is that divine in and through every aspect of this creation. In spite of such, do I end up seeing the divine all through my entire experience? Obviously not. We can see it in The lines to Tirupati or Vaishno Devi or Ayyappa, while you are going to see Bhagwan, everybody is a bhakta. If you are going to Vaishno Devi, Jor se bolo, one fellow will shout. If you are in and around there, Jai Mata Di, प्यार से बोलो जय माता दी. All that darshan is done. Now it is prasad time. What happened to all the bhakti? Bhakti gaya bhad mein. Now only dhakka mukki. Pushing each other. Right? My prasad, I have to stake. Our perception is not there. Why? Because of the Vikshepa Shakti. With this Vikshepa Shakti, I separate this entire world into two parts. My world and that which is not mine. That which is yet to be mine. Not only that it is mine, I have to now ensure that 7 generations after me have to live happily. Therefore, amass as much as possible. Where is the limit? N tending to infinity. There's never a contentment zone that we ever reach. This selfishness becomes the core of every aspect of our life. This selfishness ridden ego clashes with other egos who are also selfish. Sometimes people say, Swamiji, there is so much of ego in the mission. I don't know whether I have to laugh or admonish. And do you think those who are coming to the mission are straight from the heavens landing here? Huh? Another example before I explain this. You go to a hospital. Who do you find in the hospital? Of course, doctors and nurses. But who are they there for? The patients. If somebody were to go to a hospital and say that, Swamiji, there are so many patients. उनके लिए बनाया है भाई. It is meant for them. Similarly, in every aspect there is that ego, and ego immediately clashes, and there are politics. Comparison. Comparison leads to competition. Competition leads to chaos. Triple C formula. Comparison, competition, and in between there are other layers also. What are the other layers? Because of the comparison, there is jealousy. There is inferiority, superiority. And then there is that rat race. And with that rat race, then the next thing that happens is chaos, oh chaos. And we follow Gurudev's pledge to the word. We give more than what we can take. We produce more than what we consume. What? We give pain more than what we can take. produce what? Confusions more than what we can consume. That aspect of this selfishness expressing with the strong ego foundation is called samsara. And the one who is completely soaked in it is called a samsari. Another way to look at it is the one who is constantly has to say some sorry here or there. Because you are aggrandizing into somebody else's trying to snatch. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The samsari. And that is where we are. Now, to unmask all these layers, disidentify from it, to purify the very equipment which constantly gets attached through the process of detachment, strengthening it through puja, upasana, japa, we then get qualified to have a teacher in our life where Shravana can happen. Shravana means the possibility of the knowledge to enter in. Why? Because the ears don't have doors. Just because the data points have come in, it is not necessary that these data points turn into knowledge or wisdom. To be able to turn this into knowledge and wisdom, the next step comes in, which is called manana. Contemplation has to happen. Then comes a serious meditation called nididhyasana. What does Shravana do? It brings in the possibility of knowledge. Therefore, the mind's very state of being in I don't know to the next level that I know, now I have to find how to apply it. In order to apply it, I have too many confusions and doubts. Where does that samshaya nivritti happen? Doubt removal happen? It happens in the next phase called manana. What is the purpose of Shravana? To acquire the knowledge. What is the purpose of manana? To remove doubts. Samshaya nivritti. Here in this book, both in the chart as well as on page number 164, the third one has to be corrected. Meditation is not for the purpose of creating an experience of realization. That's a wrong one. You have to correct it, you have to change it. So mark an X on it. What does meditation do? Meditation is to remove erroneous habitual errors. This in technical knowledge, technical wording is called viparyaya. To remove the samshaya is manana, to remove the viparyaya is called nididhyasana. Absence of this is what creates destabilized experience. Constantly you are being destabilized from the experience of the self. What does erroneous habitual errors mean? There are layers of patterns that we are embedded in. Moment something happens, there is a pattern in which I act, react, respond. Isn't it? Why is it that I react, respond in that very fashion? Because it is a habit and that habitual error expresses. Has it ever happened that you have had to change your name? Talk to a sannyasi, you will know. Talk to a Chinmay Mission sannyasi, you will know, because they have changed name at least twice. From the Purvashram to the Brahmacharya name, from the Brahmacharya to the Sannyasa name. I think it is about 10 years that I have had Sannyasa now. Right, Hari? Right, about 10 years. Even now, because I had lived as a brahmachari for almost 18 years of my life. So when I catch myself, especially when I call somebody and I have to leave a message, you don't call expecting it to be not taken, right? So suddenly now you have to form the sentences and you have to leave a message, a meaningful message. So I inadvertently it comes out. This is Swami. I have to correct myself from Brahmachari Uddhav Chaitanya to. I have left many such hilarious messages to many people. Now where does that come? Habitual error. I have lived like a limited ego jiva, not just this life, aneka janma samprapta, karma bandha. From various lives I have been carrying it forward. Do you think just by one day listening to that, you are Paramatma, suddenly all the things will vanish? So these patterns expresses as anxiety, as fear, as doubts, as various layers of these confusions. How do you remove it? Supposing you are burning in jealousy, envy. You remove it by meditating upon that which is the Purna, complete unto itself Padartha, which is my true nature, cannot have this layer of jealousy, because the very aspect that jealousy exists is in that layer alone, where it sees incompleteness, and incompleteness is not my nature. So where is this incompleteness? It is in this mind, in this equipment. That equipment is not my nature. Supposing I am using a pencil or a pen. It has a sharp edge. Okay. And I have been using that pencil, say, for a very long time. The edge has become blunt. When the equipment's edge has become blunt, what is the language that I say? This has become blunt. Just because the tip of the pencil has become blunt, can I say, it's funny, right? I'm holding a green pen and it is giving an illusion. I just observed it. Okay, going back to the topic. When I have a blunt tip,
This is interesting.
it does not say that, it doesn't behove to say that I am blunt.
In the right conditions, they can drink seawater.
I am not blunt. The pencil tip is blunt. If I'm using a sharp knife, I cannot say that I am sharp. Just because we use a smartphone, can I end up claiming that I am smart? No, the smartness is of the phone. All these aberrations of attributes are at that instrument level and they are not my nature. This becomes the meditation. Am I getting across? Again, when we talk about meditation, there is cliched concepts, cliched words. You say, oh, I am meditating to reach a state of no mind state. No, that is not the purpose of Vedanta Vichara. No mind state, you reach in your deep sleep. For that, you don't need sadhana. Attend a boring lecture, you will fall asleep. Or there is another concept wherein they say, happiness is a state of mind. No. Happiness is my true nature. It is not a dependable variable on the mind. What mind experiences are joy, which we enjoy. Happiness is my true nature. When can this be ascertained? Only when the layers of this mind and intellect and its aberrations because of the attributes is understood, worked through puja, japa, sadhana, acquire a stable mind. Through the Shravana Manana Nidhyasana, acquire the knowledge and abide in it. So it has to be a gradual, step-by-step growing process in this sadhana. So that I identify my true nature by transcending the Maya effect at the individual level, which is called ignorance of my own true nature. Just like darkness can be removed only through light, right? Similarly, avidya or ignorance can be removed only through knowledge. Jnanat evatu kaivalyam. There is no multiple paths to moksha. That is not a Vedanta vichara. Karma also takes you to moksha, jnana also takes you to moksha, bhakti also takes you to moksha, dhyana also takes you to moksha. Invent new methods and say that everything goes to moksha. No, Vedanta says it very clearly. Avidya can be removed only with vidya, and vidya is ascertained only through shravana. The confusions that arise can be removed only through manana. The erroneous patterns that keep us away from abiding in my own true nature, that can be removed only through nididhyasana or meditation. Because what will happen if my experience of realization is a created experience because of my meditation? Anything that is created will have a limitation in time and space, will end, will die. That I already am experienced. I am quite expert at such experiences. Why do I need to do special sadhana to have a limited experience again and call it as moksha? So therefore, to understand that moksha means that I am trying to abide in my own true nature, which has always been my true nature. There has never been a chuti meaning fall from that state. It is just the wrong identification. Because of avarana and vikshepa, I need to work those two layers to understand my true nature. Is the sequencing clear? I would request, because today it has become quite a technical jargon, I would request all of you to re-listen to this particular episode one more time. And if you still have any questions, I'm sure it should rake up a lot of questions. Next week, we will spend enough time on your questions and we will find answers for it. Comprende? So before we wind up for the day, Krishna Priya, can you sing Hanuman Chalisa ma?
Sure. Hari Om Swami.
Hari Om. Doing well?
Yeah.
Hope and pray it is yay rather than yeah.
Eventually, you know.
Soon enough, soon enough. Okay, start.
श्री गुरु चरण सरोज रज निज मन मुकुर सुधारी वरनौ रघुवर विमल जस जोदायक फल चारी बुद्धिहीन तनु जानिके सुमिरो पवन कुमार बल बुद्धि विद्या देहु मोहि हरहु कलेश विकार जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीस तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत तुलित बलधामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम बजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरण विराज सुवेशा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केशा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज सवारे लाय संजीवन लखन जियाए श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाए रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बढ़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि समभाई सहस वदन तुम्हरो जस गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद शारद सहित अहिषा यम कुबेर दिक्पाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा राम मिलाय राजपद दीन्हा तुम्हरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लील्यो ताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गय अचरज नाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हरे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होतन आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहै तुम्हारी शरणा तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज समारो आपै तीनों लोक हांकते कांपै भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जब नाम सुनावे नासै रोग हरे सब पीरा जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे मन क्रम भजन ध्यान जो लावे सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे सोई अमित जीवन पल पावे चारों युग पर ताप तुम्हारा है प्रसिद्ध जगत करत उजियारा। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नवनिधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दाता। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई। और देवता चेतन धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई। जो शत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूटहि बंधि महासुख होई। जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरी सा। तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, की जय नाथ हृदय महडेरा। पवन तनय संकट हरना, मंगल मूर्ति रूप। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुर भूप। सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय। उमापति महादेव की जय, बोलो भाई सब संतन की जय। श्री सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय।
Thank you so much, Ma. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। हरिः ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। Take care and send your questions by Thursday evening tops, and we will have a